everybody, I'm Stacey J.
And I'm Chuck Duran.
Welcome to an amazing episode of VO Buzz Weekly.
Yep, and today we have the very cool voice actor Steve Blum on the show. He's done hundreds of video games, not to mention anime and all this other stuff. You are going to love the show today.
And he is just such a cool guy.
Unbelievably cool.
So excited. Are you guys ready for some Steve Blum? Let's go. Check it out. Our guest is a superstar in animation, video games, and anime. He is known and loved for his work in Transformers Rescue Bots, Transformers Prime, Digimon, X-Men, and hundreds of video games. We are so ready to get buzzed with a super fun and super talented Steve Blum.
You forgot Goofy.
Oh, it's me.
He's picking his nose the whole time.
Steve
I'm not used to,
How
I
you
didn't
doing,
get any on
buddy?
you, did I? Yeah.
You were scratching it. You weren't picking
Hey,
it.
I don't care. I was picking my nose too.
Went into the third knuckle this time. That's a new
Wow.
record for me.
Dude, thank you so much for coming all the way down here from, where do you live, Sacramento?
From 15 minutes away.
Fresno.
There you go. All the way up there.
40 minutes in traffic.
Love
Yeah,
the
yeah,
hat.
yeah.
I like
Thank
it.
you for coming
It's
down,
tsunami.
sharing with us, and you got a lot of fans out there.
Yes.
We've been having people writing us saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe you guys are going to have that guy Tony Curtis on your show." And we're like, "We're not having him. It's Steve Blum, damn it."
We get mistaken all the time. Happens everywhere I go.
How you doing, buddy?
Doing great, man. So nice
Wow.
to see you again. It's been
Yeah,
decades.
man. Steve and I worked
Yeah,
together
this is fun
like
trivia.
a decade and a half ago,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And we recorded a demo for you, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But and now, dude, I couldn't believe when our paths just crossed
fire.
again, and I was like, all the stuff that you have been doing since then is just mind-boggling.
And none of it would have happened without you.
Well, you know what? I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
I mean that though. This guy did my first demo for me when I had nothing. He built the tracks for me. He walked me through the process. I'm really grateful for that.
Well, thank you,
and
man.
I don't forget that kind of stuff. And you were a rock star then, and look at you now. And I'm in awe. And it's so much fun to be here.
Oh,
after all these
thanks,
years.
buddy.
It's
That's
really
cool. You know what?
cool.
I didn't know the show was going to be about me today, but this is awesome.
Well, you don't get props. I mean, neither of you guys get props on the show, and I think you should because you're doing a great service for the fans
Thank
out
you.
there and for
Thank
all
you,
of
man.
the voiceover community. I think it's really cool.
Thank
I
you.
love tuning in and seeing all my buddies on here, and you
That's-
guys just rock this. It's really fun.
Yeah, we certainly enjoy it, and
Yeah,
and
we get a
we'll-
lot out of it too.
Yeah, we do. We really do. We love sitting with you guys and hearing stories, and then the people out there from all over the world that don't have the opportunity to be in LA,
Right.
you know, and be around people like you that they look up to and aspire to be like and stuff. And this is their opportunity to get a little inside, you know, and have that.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah, they're
So
excited.
we're gonna go deep.
We're going
Steve.
deep, baby.
We're gonna
Good.
dig.
We're going deep.
We're digging out all the
I
skeletons.
am ready for
In
you.
fact, what I
He's
want to
like,
do.
I gotta go. I forgot I have a
yeah,
session.
exactly.
Oh,
Hello.
So this is
sorry.
going to be fun and light.
Yeah. So
Why are you crying?
Oh no, Barbara, don't!
we only have you for 5 minutes today, so we're going to get to our first question here. And I've never asked this to anyone before, so I'm going to ask you. But no, I always like asking people how they got started in voiceover because everybody has a little bit of a unique story.
Yeah.
And I think that for all the people out there, depending on where they're living and how, it's always a little different. And having a little nugget of, hey, that's how I'm doing it. You know, it motivates and stuff. So how did you get started in VO?
Mine is so different than everybody's story, and it's absolutely the wrong way to go. Actually, it's not, because I started doing it because I love doing it, and I didn't even know that I loved doing it. I didn't realize it was a job. I was working in a whole other career. I was trying to do music. I was a terrible guitar player, playing for an R&B band in the 80s, opening for heavy metal acts, and getting cheeseburgers.
R&B opening for heavy metal?
In the 80s.
Wow.
Yeah, playing Troubadour and
Right,
Country
right.
Club and Roxy, all those places. And I was terrible. I was a lousy guitarist, and I was just trying to make my way in the business. And I had a day job at this low-budget sci-fi film company. And I was a driver and worked in the mailroom. And everybody there, of course, was an actor. Everybody in
Of course.
Hollywood is an actor, except for me.
Except for you.
But I had the deepest voice in the mailroom, and the head of the mailroom was casting this anime thing on the weekend. He called it Japanimation back then. Nobody even knew what it was.
Yeah.
There were maybe 2 or 3 companies in LA that were doing that because fans did not like English dubs. They liked everything subtitled, original Japanese. So already we were kind of going against the grain, but I didn't know any better, so it was great. He offered me free breakfast and lunch if I would come out to the studio on a weekend and try out for this thing. And so I did.
That was the going rate back then.
Steve
by the
works for
way.
food. Good to
Yeah,
know.
I work for food. But he said if I booked a gig, I would get $7 a line. And I thought that was great. There were like 20 lines that of this one character
Yeah,
he
yeah.
wanted me for. All of them were grunting, no verbal anything. It was just creatures.
Yeah.
I figured I could handle that, though. And because of the music training, I was able to do the lip sync. I was able to just rhythmically lock
Yeah.
into the lip sync of these creatures. And so I'd go into the studio, which happened to be in a treehouse in this guy's backyard. He was a rock musician, had this little
That's
band, and he
fun.
had a little studio that he built in his treehouse. It wasn't even soundproofed.
Yeah.
We had to carry all of the equipment up in the morning and carry it back down in the afternoon.
Very
Oh,
glamorous.
God.
It was very glamorous, yeah. And while we were recording, this guy was hanging by his knees in the tree outside, chainsawing limbs off. He thought it was a good time to trim the trees while his studio was rented out. But unfortunately, it wrecked all the sound inside.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was crazy. And so I go into the studio, and my first gig was a creature called a zoonoid for a show called The Guyver, which was this big drippy creature, and he ripped the arm off of another creature, and I think he beat him with it or something. So the very first thing I did was just go in there and go, and they said, all right, you're hired, cool. And so I stayed there for the whole day, and then they hired me back again and again, and I did 26 episodes. I ended up
Wow.
getting the speaking role of the main bad guy in the show.
Wow.
And I just did it for fun on the side
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
next 10 years. The same company kept hiring me. And I just stole everything from the other actors. I just watched them. We all worked together, which you never do in anime.
Right.
We always go in one at a time. But we didn't know any better. And so through the years, I just learned how to do the gig. And I didn't even realize that I was voice acting until many years later when there was a show called Cowboy Bebop that had come into great popularity. And I was having a conversation with the director, Mary, who you should have on this show, by the way,
Yeah.
also. And I was talking to her about Bebop, and I was kind of ashamed of myself for taking on a lead role like that. I didn't think I did a very good job. And I said, I think you probably should have gotten a real actor for this. And she goes, what do you think you are? What do you think you've been doing all this time? I said, but I'm not a trained actor. I didn't go to school for that. And she goes, you kind of did. You've been doing this for like 10, 12 years, whatever it was at that point.
Yeah.
And it was just a completely different way of doing it.
Yeah.
And so I continued doing it on the side while I was working my way up through that same company, stayed with that same company for 15 years, became an executive at that company, and then finally quit my job when I booked a 7-Eleven commercial. And thought I was going to be able to support myself.
That is kind of like the peak. When you book a 7-Eleven commercial,
Yeah.
that's the peak, right?
Well, you think. You'd think. But then the union goes on strike for 8 months, and I'm out of work for a year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, my
Unfortunately,
God.
one commercial can't sustain your entire life, but clearly you rebounded.
I rebounded. It took me a year. I was out of work
Yeah.
for a whole year.
Yeah.
And putting everything on credit cards and still paying off some of that stuff to this day.
Wow,
And
man.
it was crazy. It was
And-
really
and-
crazy back
Well, the
then.
union strikes are, there was the writer's strike shortly after I moved to LA, because
Yeah.
I do on camera as well. And, you can't really predict those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And you are
Right.
completely powerless when you can't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you survive that year? What did you do? Or,
I don't even remember, actually. I kind of blocked
been
that
there.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I took on side jobs. I've always had all kinds of weird jobs. I've had
Yeah.
probably 30 or 40 jobs in my life.
what's your weirdest job?
Well,
the
probably,
one he's got right now.
Yeah, that is the weirdest job right now, for sure. For sure, yeah. Man, well, I was a service technician for fire equipment in downtown LA, and I recharged fire extinguishers and inspected equipment.
Wow.
And so my job was, I was
Fire
one of those
Marshal
guys
Steve.
I
Yeah?
was one of those guys who's pouring powder from the bag into the little fire extinguisher out on the curb, and just annoying everybody in the neighborhood. And I had, homeless guys throwing up on my shoes and all kinds of
I
unbelievable
had no idea that's how
experiences down there.
I didn't know you could refill. See, I learned something
Yeah,
new today. Thank
yeah.
you.
Yep, you
know,
can.
they have more sophisticated systems now. They
Yeah.
have actually
Yeah.
machinery that will do that. But
Yeah.
basically, we shot it off into a bag and poured it back through a strainer into the container.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
And there were a couple places where they had some below street level restaurants in downtown. They were more upscale.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm pouring that powder, I just didn't realize that when the wind comes up, it blows that stuff all over their food. And so I got screamed at all
Oh,
the
my
time.
God.
Seeing horrible things in restaurants and
Oh, it's
Chinatown.
good character
and-
Yeah.
research.
So
Yeah.
he poisoned half of LA.
But they're fire retardant, so
There you
inside
go.
and out.
Yeah,
So I was-
exactly. Food doesn't taste too good, but no fires. So you have an agent now,
Yes.
right? You're represented. How long were you doing voiceover stuff without knowing you were doing voiceover without an agent?
Probably 10, 12 years.
10, 12 years.
Yeah.
Wow, so a pretty long time.
A long time, and then once I signed with an agency, which was after we made the demo.
Okay. Is that why you made the demo? Because you were like, I want an agent?
Yeah, I wanted to get an agent. I just kind of wanted to step it up and
Okay.
see what I could do out there.
Yeah.
And I thought I would try it out. And I actually went with an agency who I won't mention because she put me on the shelf and basically said there was nothing for me in the industry. And I sat there for 3 years under contract.
Wow.
And I couldn't work.
Wow.
And, so it was a lot of self-esteem
Yeah, we
spiraling
better not
downward
mention their name.
Yeah.
during that time. Yeah. No, it was just kind of a weird time. But her agency was in transition at the time, and she was starting her own thing. And
Right,
So,
right.
she was concentrating more on
Other
her on-camera
priorities,
commercial
yeah.
people and whatever
Yeah.
else. Yeah.
Cool, man.
So, but eventually I signed with Arlene Thornton, and I've been with her ever since. And,
Beautiful.
And she's amazing.
She's great.
She's
amazing.
Yeah.
Love you,
Yeah,
Arlene.
absolutely. Love you. Yeah. Arlene,
Love
you rock.
Arlene.
Hey, we're going to have you on our show someday.
Let's all give hearts to Arlene.
Yes.
Okay.
How do you do that? Learn
What
another
are-
new thing.
Yeah,
today.
right. Exactly. I want to know, man, because look, I'm a musician, and I have people in my life that have inspired me to, play and do all this stuff. Who have been some of the people that you feel have maybe inspired you to do what you do?
Oh man, so many people. Well, in recent times, Frank Welker,
Yeah.
number one.
Yeah, that guy's insane.
Frank
by
is
the
just
way. So
unbelievably
great.
talented.
Yeah.
He does so many different things, and I started out in creatures, so I was fascinated by creature voices.
Yeah.
And Frank is, the master of all creatures.
Yeah.
D. Bradley Baker is
Yes.
certainly
Yeah.
holding his own in that regard
Absolutely.
too.
Yes.
And Frank doesn't have to work as much as he used to, but
Yeah.
But man, he's been every creature voice in every Disney movie ever, and plus he's a fantastic actor and a comedian, and one of the nicest guys I've ever met.
Yeah.
And getting to meet him and work with him on Scooby-Doo was like a dream fulfilled for a little kid, the 8-year-old kid in me. I mean, it was amazing. I had a little fangirl moment.
Yeah.
I was in there with Frank and Casey Kasem at the same time. It's crazy.
Oh my
It's just
gosh.
crazy.
So
That's
cool.
It's just
awesome.
crazy.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, not a lot of people get to work with, people like that, that you
Yeah.
really.
And,
so
well,
that's
and the
pretty cool.
thing is that I didn't follow actors. I didn't follow voice actors
Yeah.
until I really started doing it full time. And I'm so fascinated by what everybody in this industry does. I mean, you've had so many of the greats on here.
Yeah.
And basically everybody that makes it to that level has some incredible gift. And I think we all do that. We just sit back in the room, and it's so much fun just to absorb all of the amazing talent that's happening right in front of our eyes. It's like a radio play. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, one of the cool things that I've noticed with the talent that we've had here on the show, and the greats, as you call them, is that every single one of you guys is so modest, down to earth, cool. You're the first ones to give prop to the other guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like even Jesse Harnell, which my best friend who we've had on the show, he always, like, people will call him up for a gig, and he'll be like, if he can't do it, he'll be like, you know what? You should call so-and-so.
Yep.
And it could be a $30,000 job.
Yep.
But it's like, he wants the best guy for that job to do
does.
it. And he does that all the time.
Right.
And I don't know any other industry will people do that.
I don't know. Yeah, you're right. Whether it's entertainment or not.
Yeah.
Nothing is like this.
No.
And there are people that we choose to hang out with. Rob Paulsen talks about this all the time.
Oh,
that-
gosh.
That we choose to hang out with the people in our community
Yeah.
because they're good people. They're
Yeah,
just
they
really
are.
cool people.
Absolutely.
Well, one incredible actor you work with, Peter Cullen,
Yep.
who we all know as Optimus Prime.
Yes.
He described you in terms of voice acting. He called you a beast.
Peter said that about me?
He
Yeah.
did.
Really?
He didn't call me. Call me
That's
Peter.
probably because I spit up.
Oh, wait, hold on. It's Peter. Hold on. I can't talk
Hi,
now,
Peter. What did you say again? Oh, no, he actually said,
No, but I read in multiple places, that in terms of voice acting, he said that you were a beast.
That's really funny.
I wonder, do you know of any?
It's probably because I spit or sweat on him in a,
Yeah.
in a session.
Yeah.
So.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
thinking it's a compliment.
Yeah.
I took
definitely
it
a
as a
compliment.
compliment.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I didn't take it as like, oh, he smells up the studio. He's
No, that
unclean.
guy is a beast.
Yeah.
He smells so bad. He picks his nose all the
I'm a
time.
method guy. I have to stink it up a little.
I took it as like you devour what's put in front of you. That's kind of how
Yeah.
I
I do.
took it.
Yeah. Yeah, limbs,
'Cause you-
hair, yeah.
I mean, because
teeth.
so much of your work is really, and so many of your characters, Wolverine. I mean, they're like such a visceral
It is,
kind
yeah.
of. You're not just taking those words. I mean, you really have to inhabit that character.
Yeah.
How do you approach when you get a character like that?
I dive in head first. I don't know. I'm not classically trained, so I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
any other way than to do it from an organic place. And for me, I have to just inhabit that body.
Right.
And working with guys like Fred Tatasciore. I don't know, has Fred been on the show yet?
No, not yet.
Must get Fred on the show.
Must get
He's
Fred.
hilarious.
But
You
Sam
hear that,
Riegel,
Fred?
Yeah,
was it
Freddie.
Sam Riegel talks about Fred's teas, his magic teas to help take care of his throat.
Oh yes, Fred used to carry like a whole suitcase of teas and stuff. Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, he's like the doctor of voice work. But Fred is one of these also very visceral kind of guys, and he played. Which one was that? We were in Wolverine and the X-Men, and Fred and I were having this unbelievable battle as he was playing Hulk, I was playing Wolverine, and we're swinging and growling, and Fred's a big dude, and the hair is flying, and we're both sweating, and Fred's got real long hair, and when he shakes his head, the sweat flies around the room, and so basically everybody's in the splash zone when you're working with Fred. But we're throwing punches. We're at the mic and we're throwing punches, being as quiet as we can, but we're literally doing the work.
Right.
And it actually got to the point where they had to separate our mics a little bit because they were afraid that we were going to knock each other out.
Wow.
And I think that all of us who dive in that deep, that's how you get the real performances.
Yeah.
To the point where when I go home from one of those sessions, my whole body aches, my rib cage feels like it's broken.
Right.
And it takes a couple days to
Yeah.
recuperate.
Now, that's a session.
That's commitment.
But what about when you're auditioning for a character and all you have in front of you is... Do you audition from
Same
home,
thing.
by the way? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have a
Both.
home studio, and but mainly home? Or
Mainly home,
Okay.
yeah. But I do go out and
Okay.
audition too.
So, but when you're at home, just you...
Yeah.
Right? Nobody looking at you, and you got that little piece of paper with a picture on it or whatever. How do you look at that?
Arms are flailing, face is contorting, all the same
So
stuff.
you're still getting as into it as you would on a job.
The audition is the gig.
There you go.
I mean,
Yeah.
honestly,
That's the
audition,
deal right there.
The audition
Yeah.
is the gig. I learned that from Jack Angel a long time ago.
Yeah.
that he taught
Jack
me.
Angel, doesn't he do magic? Oh no, that's Chris Angel. Wow.
They got to be related somehow.
True or false?
Uh-oh.
You won a Guinness World Record for most credited roles in a video game. As of May 2012, you have voiced more than 260 games.
Yes.
And that was in 2012.
That
so
was 2012. Yeah, they just asked me to update it, and I think we're over 300 now. Wow. 300 something.
Dude, you're on fire.
It's so weird though because I never kept track
solid,
of any
man.
of that stuff, and I never wanted
so
to
cool.
do voiceover as a career. I never expected that it would be a career. even
You
a
never
viable
wanted
career.
to do it?
Well, no, I didn't.
You
even
wanted
realize
to be an executive.
You
wanted
didn't
to
know it
fill,
was a career?
You
No, I
wanted to
wanted
fill
to-
the fire
I
extinguishers
wanted
for the
to be
rest of your life.
a badass guitar player.
You
like
wanted
you.
to
That's what I
be-
wanted. 'Cause those are the guys that get
I
the
know.
chicks.
They do
Yep,
get the
see?
chicks.
You see what happened right here?
Yeah.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that, and I never kept track of any of that stuff. I stopped doing my resume years ago and just relied on IMDb to do what they would. And some of it's true, some of it wasn't. But they contacted me from Guinness, and somebody was paying attention. And they said that they thought that I might have the record, and I just needed to confirm it. So I had to sit with my agent for weeks and go through the IMDb and try to figure out what was mine, what wasn't. And it turned out that it was
True.
It won a record, yeah. And
Wow.
so it
That's
was-
awesome.
it was
You're in
crazy.
Guinness without having to eat bugs and.
That was the
That's
thing. Because
awesome. Oh, you'd rather.
when
be
I was
the
a-
bugs.
when I
He's
was a
like,
little
no,
kid-
I want to eat a chocolate-covered cricket.
I remember as a little kid that I tried to do it like pogo sticking and
Yeah.
hopscotch and eating
You
bugs,
did.
and I really wanted that when I was a little kid, and then I forgot about it.
You ate hot dogs. And,
I ate probably a lot of things you shouldn't eat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
That's awesome. So
But-
you're over 300 now, I think.
Over 300, yeah.
That's genius.
That is stellar.
I don't know what
Well,
the number is now.
congratulations.
That
It's
is
crazy.
out of this world
It's
stellar.
300 games, not 300 characters, so it's probably
yeah.
some
Right.
games have 10 characters. Who
Oh,
knows?
yeah. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah, it's
amazing.
unbelievable.
Congratulations.
Crazy. Yeah. You'd think I'd be rich by now.
Yeah, I know, right? We have this.
Yeah, he pulled up in a scooter. It was really adorable.
Yeah.
And it wasn't motorized. It was one of those little things.
His
had to,
right
like-
quad is so.
Great parking spot, though. Perfect parking spot.
So this is from Ashley Gray
Hi,
Hi,
Ashley.
Ashley.
at Poet Angel 862. What have you learned about yourself and life since becoming a voice actor? Nice.
It's a very simple answer. Gratitude.
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 Wow.
It's a lesson I learned very early on, and it's become my mantra. And my whole life changed at 40 years old, and I started doing voiceover full time. And from that moment on, that was the first thing that popped in my head.
Yeah.
That that's kind of what I needed to carry with me forever. And I was also advised that way by a lot of my mentors in the business, and it's served me really well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm grateful that I get to do this for a living. I'm
Yeah.
grateful for the fans that show up and watch the stuff and know so much more about our careers than we do,
Yeah.
and advise me you know, I learn a lot.
Absolutely.
I learn so much every single day.
Yeah,
So.
and your kids must just dig the heck out of what you do for a living,
Now
right?
they do. Yeah. I don't
Do
think
they
they're-
even care?
No. Now they do. Now they're into it, and they're.
I
older
sounded
now.
like Albert Brooks for a second.
Yeah.
Do they even care?
They, you know, when they were younger, I don't think they really did because they didn't watch anime. They were too young. They didn't really get it.
Yeah, of course.
And later on, I think when it first started clicking for them was when I started doing games. And then they started building some street cred with their buddies. And then they started coming to cons, and now they love coming to the conventions with me, and we've traveled a little bit together. And
That's cool.
Yeah, because you go all over the world.
Yeah, all over the place. All over the
Yeah, I
place.
mean, you do, man. You travel a lot for these things.
I do.
Let me ask you something, because I've always wanted to know this, and I've asked some of my buddies this, but why do you do it? Why do you like doing cons?
I like to see the fans face to face, and it's such a humbling experience for me.
Yeah.
At first, I like to do it just because I wanted to be of service. I wanted to get out there. You make a few dollars sometimes you don't. And I wanted to travel. And my budget didn't allow me to travel to some of the places that the cons will take me. So I love that part of it.
Yeah.
But in the last few years, I've started going deeper with some of the fans, and there's a lot of fans with Asperger's and all sorts of varying degrees on the spectrum that connect with anime and connect with the superhero type mentality.
Yeah.
And it gives them an environment where they feel safe and they feel a sense of community, unlike anything I've ever seen. And the connection that people seem to make with the kind of work that we do is just unprecedented. I never expected that in my lifetime to have that kind of effect on anybody. And so these stories that come up at the conventions are the things that continue to motivate me. Every single time I go, I cry.
Wow, that's
it's
fantastic, man.
unbelievable. You hear about kids who were nonverbal speaking for the first time because they made a connection with one of my characters, or guys in Afghanistan that would go back to their bunker after some horrible mission.
Yeah.
All they'd want to do is play Call of Duty, and it would give them a sense of home and community with their buddies there. You wouldn't think that would be the case because it's a war game. It's a gnarly war game.
Exactly, yeah.
But it kept them sane. Some of these guys said that it actually kept them alive. Or there was a girl who contacted me about 3 months ago who was on the verge of suicide. She said that one of my shows came on late at night, and it stopped her. It stopped her in her tracks. And then she was going to go back to it. Another show that I was on came on later, and that kind of stopped it for her completely. And she contacted me, and I asked her to get help, and she has, and she keeps in touch with me now.
That's fantastic.
And so those kinds of
Yeah.
relationships are born in the conventions and through the fan world, through Twitter and Facebook and stuff. And it continues to move me every single day. So that's become my driving force more than anything else in the business.
Yeah, and that's so cool, man, that, you hear some people saying, oh, the life of Facebook and Twitter and social media, and, it's like, I want my privacy and blah, 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 and I don't like this or I don't like that. And then you have somebody like you who's the total opposite, who's like, who finds something so real in that whole thing, and you are so aware that you actually do touch lives. You know what I mean? These aren't robots.
You have a sense of responsibility
You know what I mean?
to that.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. And well, actually, he really doesn't have. I don't think it's
No,
his obligation, but it's his kind heart that says, "Hey, you know what? I am so grateful for the talents that I have and what I do for a living that I want to meet these people that keep me working and right."
Yeah, and the gratitude keeps you from getting overwhelmed by the sense of responsibility.
Yes.
Right.
And that's what balances it for me.
So
Because
cool.
it can be heavy. It can be very heavy,
Yeah.
especially when you get
Well,
stories
yeah,
like that.
when I mean, I don't mean that you have I mean that when I hear you talk about that, it feels like you feel responsible for,
Yeah.
that your work touches more than just,
Absolutely, yeah.
the entertainment factor.
I feel a sense of empathy for some of these kids, and a lot of them have really, really struggled. There's a lot of these kids who they got bullied, they didn't fit in, and finally they find these communities, these pop culture communities where they fit in, they can wear costumes, they can be anybody that they want to be, and everybody loves them for exactly who they are, which is all any of us want.
Yeah.
And if I can do anything to help perpetuate that, I feel so honored just to be part of that community.
I love
What
it.
a cool guy, man.
I know.
This guy is like the coolest guy on a freaking planet.
Wait, hold on.
I'm just grateful,
You're
man.
just so cool.
He's gonna get cooler.
Okay, he's gonna
I
get
got a
cooler.
little-
Oh boy,
I got a
Steve
little,
Blum gets
I
cooler.
get a little misty every
on
time I
VO.
talk
I
about
did.
it.
I got
No, I
a
do too.
little. I got
Yeah,
a
I
little
can see.
tear.
You got tears running down your face.
I got
you know.
a little tear. I did not. We have waterproof, so watch yourself.
Where's our makeup lady?
Oh wait,
she's over
we
there.
don't have one.
She's in tears too.
That's next year, remember?
But you're pretty too.
Please send donations. We need a makeup
The camera
artist.
guys, our
That's
whole crew
Jordy
out
behind the
here
scenes,
is
ladies and gentlemen.
taking
Yeah.
notes. You know,
You can't see him, but
Go
he's
to
there.
the donate tab. No, okay, that was horrible. Okay, so I read this, Mr. Bloom, that you said, and I loved it.
No, that's my son. He's a teacher. I don't go by Mr. Bloom.
Okay, Stevie.
Mr. Bloom, the teacher.
Stevie Pooh.
Yeah,
You
I
can call
can't
me
believe
anything
you
you
have
want,
a
honey.
son that's a teacher.
I know.
That's
it freaks me out.
crazy.
It freaks me out that people call him Mr. Bloom. You know, that's trippy.
That's hilarious.
What do you have?
Does he send you to the principal's office?
I wish.
Okay, so you said, always be happy when someone else gets the part.
Yep.
I know it sounds crazy and it isn't always easy to do, but I was taught this philosophy before I ever booked anything, and it served me well. When another actor gets a role, that's your colleague, not your enemy. Chances are you will eventually work with that person at some point in your career. I think that's beautiful. It's genius.
It is.
It's not easy to do, yeah, but it keeps you in that space of gratitude.
It's truth, though. It
Yeah.
does keep you in the space of gratitude. And,
Yeah.
and I mean, the people in this community are people that I choose as my friends
Yeah.
also. And we were talking about Jess Harnell earlier.
Yeah.
Who will refer people.
Sure.
And I know he does that. I know for a fact that he does that. We all do that. to
You
some-
all do
some
that, yeah.
degree. And even if I'm up for a part and I think one of my friends who would be perfect for the role would be competing with me, in real time on this thing, I'll give him a call. I mean, Freddie, I've told Fred Tatasciore about roles before that if he wasn't reading for it, he should be.
Right.
And Charlie Adler, who's one of my heroes, and he's a great friend.
Yeah.
He was playing Starscream in the Transformers movies, and when I was up for the role of Starscream for Transformers Prime, called him and asked his permission.
Yeah.
And he said that he couldn't do it for various reasons, and he said, "Go ahead, make $1 million." Yeah, absolutely. And you don't get that in every area of the entertainment business or in any area of any business.
in a
pretty
lot
much.
of it.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's just a mutual respect, and we all want, I think, the best person for the job.
Yeah.
I mean, because we love what we do, we actually want it to be good.
Exactly.
So, and anybody who doesn't have that mentality really shouldn't be doing the work, in my opinion. So,
I have to agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that is the mentality to have. It's just a healthy way to be.
it is.
It
is.
general.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
you'll
is.
get a lot more with
Yes.
that way of thinking.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, now
You'll
that
live
we're done
longer.
crying
Yeah.
and hearing.
I went so deep. You're right. We went deep.
I wasn't
Oh my
supposed
God.
to be the one.
Man.
But I'm never satisfied. I'm going for the ugly cry.
Oh God, not the.
Ay,
ugly cry.
ay, ay.
Oh no.
Okay, this comes from Facebook from Alex James. Which one of the characters you've done do you relate to the most?
I relate to all of them in different ways. They're all little pieces of my psyche.
Mm-hmm.
They're like children to me. I can't really even distinguish one from another. It's just
Yeah.
whatever that emotion needs to come out in that
Right.
moment. I fortunately have the vehicle to do that so that I don't hurt anybody and my
Yeah.
head doesn't explode.
Yeah. Yeah.
Important
yeah,
safety tip.
I think you guys are actors. You know what it's like. You have to relate. You have to find something relatable in each
Right,
character. And
right.
so, no matter how crazy or distorted the character may be, there has to be some sense of human emotion in there somewhere that makes sense.
Well, that's the end of part 1 with Steve Bloom. Be back next week for part 2.
Make sure to keep up with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest, you guys, at VO Buzz Weekly. Take care until we see you again, and just remember, you always have time for a little buzz.